Hey everyone, welcome back. We are live. It's me, Kelsey Lee, and we're with.
Adrienne here on Navajo Tea Time.
Feels like we have a different intro for our lives every time. Um,
Oh well, just kidding. No, hi everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
yeah, sorry we're an hour late. I had a really good afternoon nap. I don't know if any of you guys know what I'm talking about, where you just lay down and then you wake up wondering what year it is. Um, and then Adrian was sending me texts, so I was the one late this time.
Like the first time in 5 years. Good job. Not bad.
Good job. I guess the track record.
Yep, it's pretty good.
Yeah, so I guess we'll begin today with the roses and thorns, like Adrian mentioned before. It's like the highs and the lows of, the last time we were here, checked in about a little over a month ago. So Adrian, what are your roses and thorns?
My roses and thorns. I think the highs right now are that like everyone's on summer break, school's out, so that's cool. Having the kids home, I like it. Um, and not having to like rush around every day to get everybody up and get them ready and get them off to school and all of the like end of year stuff that happened to like in May with like receptions, graduations, all of that was. I'm glad it's over. But yeah, it's so I think like that's I'm happy about that, but I'm also really like happy that um my daughter, she was promoted from 8th grade this year, and a lot of her friends are promoted, so we went out to Saley and we did the graduation, and that was really cool to kind of see everyone all dressed up and see the families and go to receptions and eat really good food. So yeah, that was kind of like the high this past few weeks. And then I guess the thorns would probably be because I'm down south now. It's like super hot. Oh my god. My car, it calculated 118 earlier this afternoon. So I was like on the brink of taking a nap too because I was so exhausted. I came home and like the heat really beats you down. I laid down. I had to set a timer so I didn't like fall asleep either. And I got up on time. So unlike some people, just kidding. Just kidding. How
I probably would have
about
slept through
you?
my timer.
What are
Yeah,
your
for
roses and
me,
thorns?
roses and thorns. I guess the roses, like I said, like graduations and farewell parties and everything are going pretty
Mm-hmm.
good. I got a new fridge, so that's
Ooh,
nice.
nice.
That's really recent.
That's cool. Good job.
Yeah, and then some thorns is just I've been so scattered brained, like I didn't realize how much I needed my routines and like just the different self-care stuff that I've been doing to help
Mm-hmm.
keep my mind on track.
Mm-hmm.
How much I really needed it, and I haven't done it since the end of May and almost all of June, and I can really tell because I'm just scattered brained and taking naps when I shouldn't be. And just so I need to get back onto those different morning and evening rituals that just kind of fell away when my little one stopped going to school because I don't have to get
Oh
her to bed
yeah.
at a certain time, so I don't have to do certain things. So for me, with no school, all the structure went away when the school went
Mm-hmm.
away. Um, and so I need to build that internally because just working for myself, I could literally start work at 6 p.m. and get done at 3 a.m. if I wanted to. And there's
Mm.
um so I need to rebuild the structure of my habits and things because they just went bye bye when little one didn't have to go to school anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other little one, the littlest one, he's in, I don't know, when they're young, their schedules change so drastically from month to month, you know. One day they have to sleep like 4 or 5 hours, and then next they're like only sleeping for like 2 hours, and then 10 minutes, and but they have to like eat every 20 minutes or something. It's just trying to keep up with their feeding and sleeping schedule too, plus everything else outside of just raising kids. Um,
Mm.
yeah,
Do you guys have plans for Father's Day?
um yeah, and the plans are kind of just to like chill out. We don't
Mm-hmm.
really go all out for things. Um if we had more time, I think we'd probably be able to like just game all day, but we have the two kids, so we can't just ignore them and play games all day
Mm-hmm.
like we would have done. Well, I don't know. Like when Frankie was younger, we'd probably go like disc golfing or something, or
Mm-hmm.
but not this year. This year we're just gonna stay home and chillax, maybe make some s'mores. And he has a list of food he wants to try out, so
Oh, cool.
that's what we're gonna do. Just cook some,
Mm-hmm.
put a little bit more effort into the food we make tomorrow.
That's always nice.
Yeah. What about you? What are you doing for Father's Day?
So our second grandbaby was born, and so we're gonna go down to visit the kids, but we're also gonna take their father out for a steak dinner. So he's kind of a new dad, I guess, and I think he's been doing a really good job, and we kind of want to be there to offer up some encouragement. So we made reservations at the steakhouse that we like to go to. It's a steakhouse that Vine Deloria used to frequent. So Vine Deloria Jr. So we've gone there before. So good. Oh my god, it's like so delicious. So we figured we'd take our, I guess, our son-in-law out and treat him out to a good, delicious dinner. So that's our plan for tomorrow.
That's cool. It's always nice when like the older family members or like the more senior parents
Mm-hmm.
help include the younger parents on like Mother's Day and Father's Day, and kind of
Yeah.
help the other partners out. Just because it's
Mm-hmm.
hard to like, what are we supposed to do? Um,
Yeah, I think it's good. I think that every parent should do that. You know what I mean? Like especially those first few years when like the young parents are kind of like still trying to figure it out. Sometimes they're kind of stretched thin financially. It's kind of nice to be able to show up and just treat them out, you know,
mhm.
and let them know that they're appreciated and that we are supportive and all that good stuff. So that's what we're trying to do. Just be like supportive, you know. So yep, that's our
That's
plan.
cool.
But I'm ditching my dad this year, so unfortunately.
You're gonna let me say last year it was like just sell him money to buy a steak dinner or have it delivered to him through
Yeah,
Uber.
I know this year my sister is gonna, she's like, I think I'm gonna make dad pozole. And I was like, oh, cool. Guess what? I just happened to have ingredients. So I gave her like a pork shoulder that I had in the freezer and a big old can of hominy. It's like that big. Because sometimes I make it from scratch, sometimes I don't. I just happened to have this huge can of hominy. So I was like, here, you take these and this will be my contribution. And if you happen to have any leftover, just save some for me. She's like, okay. So yeah.
Cool. Brady said he completed his congressional internship. That's great. Awesome.
Ooh.
That's really cool. And now he's working for the senator. Which
Oh my
senator?
goodness.
Arizona or New
Congratulations.
Mexico?
Yeah, let us know, Brady.
And then he said, how can I help on the federal level? How can I help you get a home site lease? On the federal level, maybe you can try and let us buy land ownership
Mm-hmm.
instead of leasing. Um, just a little of that, but or I don't know how this would go. So my younger siblings, their father passed away not too long ago. I think it's been over a year now, and his home site lease is in his name, and so my brother's trying to get the home site lease on his name, on my brother's name, so that he can, take over the APS bill and the NTUA bill and just do anything with the home site lease in the house. And it feels like it's so much the probate court. I feel like there should be a
Mhm.
separate section of where it's just having the home site lease name changed over. And I can kind of see why it's a more elaborate process, but I also see why sometimes it's just a little too much when,
Mhm.
it's super easy where all the family agrees the home site lease should go to this one person, and it's just a matter of like, yeah, let's just change the name over. Because
Mhm.
it's ridiculous.
I think we need more. I mean, this could be done at the federal level. It could probably be done other ways, but I mean, if the offices that are in charge of processing those home site leases, of paperwork, if they could have, if they could be provided more funding and support to hire more people to do that work, to update their filing system, to have more, I guess, officers spread out over the res so people can, have that access. I think also, like, if one of the biggest challenges that people have is like like making like one of the biggest challenges that I've run into personally is finding the surveyors, right?
Mhm.
So, like, for example, Kelsey and I both had this issue with Fish and Wildlife where we had to wait months out just for them to get somebody out to our region because they only had two people in that office in Winter Rock at the time. So, because of they were stretched so thin, not only were they doing their fish and wildlife work, but they were also tasked with coming all the way to the Western Agency to be able to clear the sites to give us the go ahead to proceed within that long process. And then within the process, we have to find these surveyors, which are, they give you a listing on a paper, but sometimes the listing isn't up to date, right? And so if they could somehow organize that office a little better, I don't know if that's like with federal funding or if it's with some sort of policy update. I think there's ways to streamline that process that would make it easier for people who are seeking out home site leases because there's a lot of people too. Like I was at the home site lease office in Winter Rock just last week, and a lot of people that were there, they were like elderly. You could tell they were like in their 50s and above, and so the challenges that people face when they're of elevated age, sometimes there's communication could be improved within the office, so having people be helpful and explain things clearly and be encouraging as opposed to dismissive, I think that could be really beneficial. But I don't know, like, if that, like, maybe we should have a conversation about that in the comments. What are some recommendations that our viewers could make about how Brady can solve all of our home site lease problems? We're counting on you, man.
He's always asking to be brought on. Maybe they bring him on one of our lives or a
Hmm.
recorded session, and we can just, I don't know, hash that out. Come
Yeah,
up
do
with
like
a
a Q
game
and A.
plan.
Mm-hmm. No, seriously.
Yeah, no, I was at the Western Agency office a couple months ago, I think the beginning of the year, and the
Mm-hmm.
guy said he's the only one working in that office
Mm-hmm.
for like, and he goes over all the paperwork, just him by
Mm-hmm.
himself. And
Yep,
he
that's
says no one's applying for the job because they pay Navajo Nation minimum wage, which is like 7.25 or something really low like that, and no one wants to work for that price. And it's understandable because I think I was in high school when it was 7.25, and
it's
so
so bad.
that you
And
can't live
the
off of
grazing
that.
official, seriously, and the grazing official in that region, he doesn't even have an office. He like works out of his truck. It's so bad. Like they really need more support.
I think the grazing officials are an elected position
Yeah, but
as
he doesn't even
well.
have an office. Like, you know what I mean? That's bad. Like I don't know. Like how can you do your job well if you're like stuck in a position like that where you're getting below minimum wage?
Right?
You don't even have an office to work out of. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely something that needs to be addressed.
Mhm.
And where can you address those issues? Probably your local community meetings, which is one of our topics,
Yes.
which is our stream topic. Like, do people go to your local community meetings, like your chapter meetings? Do you sit in on club meetings, which is like the land use planning meetings, or even like school board meetings? I know.
Yeah, like if you're like a club member, raise your hand. A, if you sit on the chapter, raise your hand. If you attend your meetings regularly, raise your hand and then put your chapter in the comments.
I know for me, I try to go, but sometimes I'm just burnt out from the week, and those chapter meetings can just be socially draining on me, just with the drama that goes on sometimes.
Hmm.
And this last one I was at for July, it
Mm-hmm.
was, we waited almost an hour to meet a 15 quorum, 15 person quorum.
Oh yeah.
And they're like, well, if no one shows up within an hour and a half, we got to call it. We'll go home. And then we barely got enough people. Um,
We should do like a social experiment. Instead of asking people to subscribe and like our channel, we should ask them to go to their chapter meetings.
Go to your chapter meeting or subscribe. Which one's easier?
Those are your options.
Yeah, but then like school board meetings are just as important. I know I see a lot of people complain about
Hmm.
school and the curriculum, and well, they should teach this at the school, or the school needs to do this, and it's like, how many of those people go to the school board meetings and talk to the people who actually are in charge of
Hmm.
those issues? Yeah.
It's true. I mean, they'll usually have an idea, like the individual members who are, they're a part of the board, um, who they know what's going on. They usually have an idea of how they want to proceed, but it's protocol for them to get the consensus right of the community. And if the community doesn't show up, they're just going to proceed with their, they have an informed opinion, but it's not really fully representative of the community. So I think that's kind of like something to think about, is whether it's a school board or the chapter, if you really want to have some sort of impact or some sort of participation, um, or feel like you want to be, you want to see things different, you kind of have to show up. Like that's like step one, you have to show up. And then, you know, then you can use your vote, or you can make an opinion and it's going to get recorded, like this individual stated this, they think this would be the best way to proceed, or the consensus of the community was no, we don't want to do A, B, or C. It's a process that's there for us. But if we don't show up, then things are definitely not going to go our way. So,
Yeah, I think that's the way with the chapter meetings too. Like they can have an idea, but like if the community wants something, they have to go up and make a resolution and
hmm.
get it on the chapter meeting and show up and participate. And I noticed a lot of people just like to complain. Um, they like to state all the problems and they don't ever provide a solution,
Hmm.
which is kind of
That's
like
unfortunate.
how I like if I'm complaining about a problem, I like to think of a solution and then also present a
Hmm.
solution with the problem I bring up. But then
Hmm.
sometimes it feels like people are like, oh, well, you're just trying to be sneaky and get this agenda across. I'm like, yeah, I have an agenda. It's to get a
I
park
showed
at
up
my
for a
school.
reason.
Get a park for the community. That's my only agenda right now within my community is try and get a park.
Hmm. I remember doing that in high school. We like petitioned,
Hmm.
and we had to get so many petitions to get the attention of our, I guess, local leadership. So they told us, like, you need to go out there and you need to get support from the community. And so it was like a bunch of skaters and their friends. Um, Everyone went out and we started like petitioning all around Tuba City. And we ended up getting enough signatures to be able to move it forward. So that's why there's a skate park out there now, a park and a skate park. But it took years to make that happen. You know what I mean? And it took like a bunch of us kids out there, like doing this work unpaid, but we knew it was important. So I just think that like if you want to see some change, you have to kind of like figure out creative ways to make it happen. Sometimes it's like bringing people together. Sometimes it's going onto YouTube and promoting your cause.
Right?
I don't know, maybe give out some ice cream or something, a some otter pops for a signature.
Otter pops.
I know, you're like, meet me at Cameron Trading Post, a or I'll be in the garden, a trading post. I need your signature. That's what I would do. Ew. What kind of skateboard, what kind of park are you thinking and where at? Tell us more.
Ah, so there's a couple spots that have a good place for a park. Like one right next, just down the street from my house, cause it's closer to me.
Right at your turnoff?
Yes, it's just a big open spot, and it's nice and flat. It's right next to the highway. The
Mm-hmm.
center, literally the center of the, you know, the start and end of
Mm-hmm.
Cameron. And I was thinking like also like a skate, kind of just like if I could just like copy paste the one in Tuba and just put it down, I'll be fine. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. But I also like the idea of like recycled playgrounds, like use the
Mm-hmm.
tires and like different old material like
Oh
wheel
yeah.
barrels and stuff to make the playground equipment, so it's not
Yeah.
creating more waste or trash or whatever, but it's just like a recycled park. I think those always look really cool. And then people don't
Those
get
are
all bent
cool.
out of shape if like someone tags it up or something. It's like, well, it was technically trash to begin with. Now it's, you know?
I know, right? Do you remember the boarding school playground back in the day? It was like that in Tuba City. They used to call it the big toy.
No.
It was yeah, it was like basically made out of like railroad ties and tires and chain, and it was really fun. It was super sturdy. Like you could play tag on that for hours. It was so fun. But now they have one of those like modern playgrounds, and I don't know. There's no danger, eh? Takes all the fun out of it. So
Brady
yeah, any
said,
comments?
yeah, Brady said he's like, how can I bring more resources to our people? He says there's like a privacy release form that if you send to the senator of New Mexico, they
Mm-hmm.
can look into your case. So, any New Mexico viewers, Brady's there to help you. Yeah, he's saying like, working in public, being a public servant, you don't get paid as much, which is
Mm-hmm.
understandable, but you should make more than 7.25 an hour. Um,
I know, like that can't be your only job if you're making that much money. Not in 2024. Are you kidding me? After a pandemic in this economy? Come on. That's crazy.
right?
Yeah.
And then he was saying that the New Mexico delegates don't really approve of Boo Nygren. They've tried having meetings about MMIW, and he doesn't show up. And then the congresswoman doesn't really
Ooh.
like him, and the senator said he's just not interested in meeting with them, and that he's missed
Dang.
us.
That's not good. Dang, that's crazy. He's all they don't really like him.
That was my interpretation. Yeah, I don't really like him.
Just makes it personal. That's funny. Well, it's hard though. I think like when you're in a public office, you're not gonna please everybody. You know what I mean? And like right now, there's a lot of. I mean, how would you say?
Drama, tea.
Yeah, there's a lot of drama, a lot of tea in Winter Rock right now that everyone's like it has access to thanks to the Navajo Times. I swear it's like turned into like a gossip column. It's crazy. Like the front page is like a gossip column now. It's crazy.
Is it? I don't even look at print media.
Really?
That's so bad.
My dad, he buys the Navajo Times whenever like he goes home and he brings it back. So like and this was like my in my house growing up, there was always like a Navajo Times on the table and that continues to this day. So, I mean, I was looking at the front page like of last week's paper and I was just like, "Oh my god, this is like a gossip column." It's all related to the same topic. Like first is a story about the president, then there's a story about the investigation that the AG is initiated, and then at the bottom there's like a story about the vice president. Crazy allegations. I'm like, oh my god, are you kidding me? And
And
it's not even real investigating either. It's just kind of like drama.
mm, and did you see the? I guess he posted his like letter of resignation or intent for
Who?
resignation. The cartoonist. I think you reshared it. I think I saw
Oh,
it from you.
Jasmine Epstein. I know. I
They
can't
wouldn't
believe
give him
it.
a raise, so he's like, okay, I just gotta look
Yeah,
somewhere
like
else.
okay, that's some crazy tea too because he was saying like, or what they were saying is that he hadn't gotten a raise since the 1970s.
Oh,
That is crazy. I mean, and a lot of my friends who are artists, they were just like, he is like a Navajo Nation treasure. You know what I mean? He tells these, like, he provides this commentary through visuals, through cartoons in the paper. And he's been doing it for years, right? Consistently. And then his family was also saying, like, even when they're on vacation, he always met his deadlines. Like, his dedication was so apparent over the years. And so he goes and he submits a letter to, or he requested a raise, um, and they let him. Like I guess they didn't. The negotiations didn't go well. I guess. And I'm wondering, like, I was wondering if it had to do with him taking it onto social media. That they were just like, "Oh, we don't like that. You put, you spilt the tea, basically." Because then, like a week later, it was like, "Okay, I'm leaving the Navajo Times." I was like, "What the heck? That's crazy." And then like the did you read the post on the Navajo Times page? They're basically just, the editor's basically just like, bye. Thanks for your service. It's so bad. I was like, dang, that's crazy. I feel bad for him. He deserved a raise.
yeah, sure. Especially like if you
I
work that
mean,
hard and like,
like over 50 years, like 50 years of service, and you don't get a raise. That's crazy.
and it's like a talent and a trade that he's definitely mastered, and
For
being
real.
being able
For
to like
real.
communicate through cartoon like very
Mm-hmm.
thoughtfully and thoroughly, getting a clear message in like one or two. Like he does one
Mm-hmm.
shots, right? Like little one frames. Yeah, I've seen his.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the only things I think I actually like looking at in the Navajo Times was the cartoons. I'm like, oh, this is cool,
Mm-hmm.
but because I'm not a big reader. But yeah, it's just.
Dang. Yeah, I really hope that our viewers are advocating for themselves and like I've said so many times, request a performance review, request a raise every single year. The worst they can do is say no. And you know what I mean? Like if anything, you're going to get some really valuable feedback on your performance and then you can learn on how to improve in those areas so that you meet the requirements so that the next year, guess what? You're going to be ready. You know what I mean? Otherwise, you're just going to get passed up. Like my dad used to always tell me that, like, the worst they can do is say no. The best is they're going to say yes. You're going to get exactly what you want, you know? But yeah, that's crazy. That was some hot tea, eh?
We have a new comment from. I'm just gonna call you Mystic because I'm not gonna say the rest of that name. Yeah, we're talking about going to your local community meetings. We were just talking about the cartoonist at the Navajo Nation Time who published his request for a raise and then a couple days or weeks later published his resignation. And, talking to Brady about his connections with the Senate and New Mexico.
That's mystical lavish, right? I think
Maybe
that's,
I'm
yeah.
like, if I see word like a really long name, I can't read it out loud. I'll mess it up. Um,
Oh, it's like when you see like a long number and you don't even bother with the whole thing. I've done that before.
Yeah.
Brady's all like, "Can you send me my cup? My other one broke." I'm sorry, Brady. I think it got lost in the mail. I'll send you something though, I
Did it? Oh
promise.
no.
I think so. We'll try again.
Okay.
Dang, that's
And
crazy.
then Brady also said that he was helping write legislation for Native American heritage rights at graduation. That came up again too. Like, I don't was it was in
Oh yeah.
it wasn't Farmington?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Farmington.
Mm-hmm.
The one lady just cut it off of her graduation cap.
That is so messed up. I mean, so like when I heard about that, I was pissed because that's so disrespectful. To go up to someone's graduation cap and cut their eagle feather off, that's insane. And then I saw some other schools like you can't have beaded caps, you can't have like any kind of regalia, you can't have feathers. And then there was this one group that said, you know what, you have every right, and it's actually there. I don't know if this is true, but they're like it's actually against the law for them to do that because eagles are protected, and if it's for spiritual purposes, then and it's on your cap. Like Native American tribes have this relationship, and they have these policies related to protected species, specifically eagles. So if someone goes in and they do that, not only are they infringing on your rights and your personal space, but there are consequences that may be had. So I think that's something worth looking into. Sorry for not doing my homework right now. Getting that, like, but that's what one of these organizations reported. They were like, it's actually really not only is it inappropriate, but it's inappropriate, disrespectful, but it's also an infringement on individual rights, especially of Native tribes that have those. Um, there's like legal protections.
Yeah, to have eagle feathers in general and
Hmm.
yeah.
I can't believe that happened again. Like every single year, something happens, and I'm like, y'all need to just leave the natives alone. Let them
And
wear their
then people
regalia
keep saying like, "Oh, why is it such a big issue?" I'm like, "Because it keeps happening. It wouldn't be a big issue."
because it is. Uh
Yeah.
oh. Brady asked a question about the allegations in the OPVP.
Mm, I haven't seen anything about it um on my very limited feed. Um
So I was telling Kelsey earlier that I was on TikTok because I wanted to see what tea topics are kind of trending right now. And TikTok's kind of the space where it all gets aired out. So if you type in like Navajo drama 2024, I mean, there's all these different tags, but that's one of them. You'll get a lot of like people are they're like showing the clips of the speeches that like the speech that the president made, and unfortunately it was all red. Like that's the one I saw last. So he was like reading his statement about how the allegations are false and like this like certain things never happened, and but it wasn't like how he normally speaks to the people. Usually he's such a great speaker, and he speaks to people in English and in Navajo, and he says like he's very like he's usually very, how would you say, mm, not persuasive but personable.
mhm.
Like he'll like really get in there. Well, this time he wasn't. He was like this. He's all reading, and then he like finishes one page and he puts it down. He has another page, and then if you look in the video, there's like a stack of papers like super super tall. I was like, what the heck? So, anyways, but yeah, there's definitely drama in Winter Rock. It's on the Navajo Times, in the Navajo Times if you want to read it. Um, but there's allegations against the president, there's allegations against the vice president, there's allegations from the vice president against the president, which is nuts. Yeah, and the AG, the Attorney General of the Navajo Nation, hired a firm, an outside firm, to come in and do a thorough investigation of all of the different allegations. So, I mean, because it's all alleged, I don't really want to speak on it too outright because it is kind of like a very sensitive topic, and I also don't want to get in the weeds of like victim blaming or making assumptions. Like I just don't want to do that. But there is an ongoing investigation, and the results of that will be shared with the public. So I think we just kind of have to hold on to our seats and wait. But for sure, the Navajo Times has been reporting on it, and you can follow people on TikTok who are also following it and sharing like clips of things. And there's always crazy drama on Navajo.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I think that was the last thing I saw was that they were hiring an outside attorney to look into everything because they didn't want any accusations of like, oh, well, the president put you in this position, so you're gonna lean one way or
hmm,
the other about
or
investigating it. So she's like, okay, we'll bring
yeah,
someone else in to have a non-bias investigation.
exactly. That's what they're trying to avoid is the bias, because then it becomes like people can, because we see this on the national level. Like if you know, we see this like with between our current like United States president and a former candidate or a former president, there's like investigations being launched, and what the person who's on trial is saying is that they're saying like this is personal, they're trying to politicize it, and they're trying to say they're going after me, but without saying, oh, I was found guilty on all these charges by a court of law and by my peers. Anyways, that's something else. But that's what could happen. So especially because the AG was previously a candidate for president, and so if they were to conduct an investigation themselves, it could be viewed as there's bias,
Hmm.
even though it seems like they're on good working terms with the current president and the administration. um, but I think that something I thought was interesting in regard to bias and politicizing the issue is another former candidate who um who lost by a landslide, a who the people didn't want, a just kidding. I'm not gonna go there.
You just did. What are you talking
But
about?
they are also trying to rally the chapters to say, hey, we need to put the president on administrative leave. Like they're really getting involved, even though they probably shouldn't even be involved, because it's kind of like we know how salty you are. You know what I mean? Like, and it's also really hypocritical critical too, because that same person had allegations against them for things that were conducted down here in the valley, and they had to go to court to answer for that as well. And it's like, y'all really want to do this? It's pretty, I don't know, it's just all drama. I think it's like power grabs and stuff. But I am kind of like curious about what the outcome's going to be, because some of those accusations are pretty serious. So it's really unfortunate, because it seems like with all of this negativity and these spotlights, you know what I mean, on the Navajo Nation around this issue, it takes away from all of our accomplishments and all of the great things that are happening for the people by the people. And instead, everyone thinks like, oh, the Navajo Nation's embroiled in all this drama. Instead, they should be like, hey, the Navajo Nation did A, B, and C, and this is like they've made some historical moves this year, which is unfortunate because it kind of takes away from all of that. Because there are people on the nation that are working really hard to do some great things. A lot of them, are on council. A lot of them are working for the OPVP. So yeah, my heart goes out to them, because it's gotta suck, if you're like working your butt off to fight for your people, and then all people see is like this stuff on the front pages and on social media.
Maybe that's what we should do next month. Just list all the great things we've done and just ignore the
Seriously,
drama.
seriously, like I think we should talk about like the water settlement. I think we should talk about like some of the things that legislations that have passed for, like education, healthcare, community benefits, or community services that have been approved by council. You know what I mean? Like maybe there's some historic things that have also happened within the OPVP that we might not be aware of. So if like any of you guys know about it and you're like, hey, this is something that we should talk about, because I really do feel that like this platform, even though it's like Navajo tea time, we also like we wanted to talk about like topics, right, that aren't often talked about in the public. And we started this channel to kind of do this, to have these conversations about things. But like one thing I think we also wanted to do is like show contemporary Navajos and put a spotlight on some of the great things that are also happening within our communities, and not just be like, we're going to drag everyone every day. You know what I mean? I think it's also important, like, for people to know the good stuff, and get excited about the good stuff, because I mean, we really are like a great tribe, one of many tribes, one of 574 federally recognized tribes, and we all have stories that we could be telling. And so I think we should do that next month. What do you think, Kelsey?
Yeah, I think that's what we try to do sometimes with our interview is just like highlight some great people in our community who aren't
Mm-hmm.
always necessarily in the spotlight, like
Mm-hmm.
different entrepreneurs or what do you call them? Knowledge holders, people who just do good things for the community, aren't always political or in the political office, or sometimes they are, and just try and show the positive stuff that happens, because I know like sometimes just always talking about the drama or the tea topics or stuff, it gets
Mm-hmm.
really down. It's like, oh, why are we even living here then if it's just always like that? But there's
I
definitely
know. It's
people working
really,
hard and trying to
yeah.
make the community better.
I think it's really easy to start to feel like down or like ashamed if all you see is the negative stuff and all the stupid stuff. Like if you go to TikTok, some of the stuff you see is so embarrassing, it's so cringy, and I'm just like, "Oh my god, this is what people see." Like millions of views for like the dumbest stuff. Like like I don't know, I'm just like traumatized by TikTok today because some of the stuff I saw was so dumb. But but it's getting like all these hits and all these views, and I'm like, shoot, that's how people are gonna like perceive us. You know what I mean? But I think that if we talk about some of the good stuff and the great stuff, might change perceptions. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess I don't know, maybe we can make a post on the social medias and on here of like if you want to nominate someone for us to shout out. Even now, if you can put someone in the chat now, and then definitely next live, we can just shout out some people and their great accomplishments that you think people need to be shouted out for.
I
Like
think
when
so too. Like, if there's someone in your community, if there's someone like in your family, if there's someone who like like your best friend or your cousin who's doing something really cool, like they deserve a shout out. Like, there's that one kid. What was his name? His last name's Haskey. His mom, she teaches at Denner College. She's a professor, but he's developing an app, like a Navajo language app, or no, a Navajo clans app. And I met him last year at the Dinesh Studies Conference at Navajo Prep, and he approached me. He showed me the app. It was just in its beta format, but now it's like it's really progressed. And dang it, what was his first name? Anyways, but I think he's someone that should get shouted out because that's like a creative way to match people. Because imagine, like, I mean, all of our kids, we all use phones, right? Like everyone uses phones. All of our kids have these. So imagine your kids like in high school or in middle school, and they're kind of like interested in someone. They could use this app to see like if their clans are the same or how they're like related or if they're not related. That could prevent a lot of like some of those customary societal issues, right? That we often face when we're approaching that dating age. So I don't know. Do you want to shout someone out, Kelsey? Is there anyone who's doing cool things in your community or that you know of?
I'm just coming off of a nap.
I know, you're like, I can't.
Not at the moment, no. Brady was saying something about like the VP speaking out about what's happening inside the office. I understand like wanting to believe victims, but then also if I'm not in it and I know there's like someone, especially like this isn't, it happens a lot in the music community. I feel like an artist gets accused of something very heinous, and it's hard to side with the victim when you love and respect the artist so much. And
Oh
sometimes
my
you try
God.
to wait
Yeah.
until all the facts are out because it's really hard until for you like just personally to like be crushed that way by someone you admire or appreciate or respect. So I understand Adrian trying to hold space of like I'm not gonna judge anyone each way right now because I haven't made up my mind on what's going on. I don't want to speak for you, but I'm just feeling like sometimes that's what happens of like you trying to process internally of like, I'll always believe victims, but then when it's someone you admire or respect, it takes a little bit longer to be able to be in that, pick a side because it's really hard. And that's how I was with like the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial for me
Mm,
personally, because I love Johnny Depp's movies and his character, and just some of the interviews I've seen of him off the screen. He seems like a really chill person, and
mm-hmm,
I wasn't shouting which way or another. I wanted to watch the trial, watch the evidence, and be able to make up my mind, being able to see all the evidence. And it was really hard for me to just be like, no, throw Johnny Depp off because he is a
mm-hmm,
guy, and you know, so there's definitely that disconnect and that internal struggle people have to make, especially if they've been a supporter of Boo and the president. And I don't think we, some people have a harder time just being able to pick a side right away. Some people need to see all the facts and hear all the testimony and be able to make that decision internally before they can publicly say which way they lean. And I don't think you should I don't think people should be called out for that, of wanting to take some time and self-reflect on where they stand on these big issues. Because
mm-hmm,
a lot of people were against Johnny Depp right away, but then it turns
mm-hmm,
out within the court of law that at the very least it was mutual, um, back and forth of, can't really say these words online, which is ridiculous. Of,
mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. We have to kind of censor ourselves, huh, on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying
Yeah,
sometimes
so
it
just so
takes
you guys know, we have
time.
to kind of like, yeah, we have to kind of like be careful what we say on YouTube for reasons that we could get like shut down. But like, there's an interesting commentary though in the comment section, about women's rights and their choice to their own bodies and how men should not be making decisions on their behalf. There's comments about SA, and how serious it is and how women should stand by the vice president and her claims. And it says she's speaking out on what happens inside of the office. So, like, what do we mean? So one person, I don't want to say their name, but they're saying your channel is supposed to talk about the issues of the Navajo people, but now you're quiet. Oh, that's so dumb. And they would like to debate me. Bring it. A just kidding. I'm kidding. But there's also this back and forth. It's like ladies will be ladies, so let them be. Other people are like, or someone else is like, so you don't support the VP in her claim. Um,
My opinion is that I don't think my opinion is dumbfounded. I haven't looked into the issue much to know anything about it and to form an opinion. And I was just saying, I feel
yeah.
like maybe Adrian is probably reserved because.
The reason why is because I work with people in Winter Rock. Like when I was there last week, I was at the OPVP, right? And I'm working to, like, I have to go into meetings with these people and work with them. So being neutral and being I guess democratic, in a sense, is is the best way forward, right? You want to you don't want to say things that are so out of turn that people are not going to want to work with you. That's not smart. But I mean, as a person, as a woman, naturally, when another woman is making claims against an individual, I'm not going to blame that person for their part in the treatment that they're receiving. I don't know what's happening behind closed doors. All I know is what's been reported by the individuals. We're going to know more once the investigation concludes, but I wasn't there. I can't say this is my oh, he did this or she did that, or this was provoked or this was not, this was welcome, this was unwelcome. I wasn't in the room, so I can't really have an informed opinion about it. However, I do support women speaking out against people that are mistreating them or making inappropriate advances. Naturally, that's my stance on things. I also think that as leaders, there are ways to, um, I guess, be preemptive about these things, right? Like we see this in the medical field. When you have a female patient and a male doctor, there's this power disparity that exists. It's a power imbalance between the two, oftentimes. So there will often be a third party in the room just to be there as a witness to what happens behind closed doors in the privacy of a space. And those are some things that could happen. So I mean, there are ways that companies do this, there are ways that offices do this, where you're not going to find yourself in a situation where this could happen because there's protocols in place. And I think that that might be something that could make avoid some of these situations, or prevent some of these situations from happening, where even though it might be inconvenient, the truth is men and women have to work together. And in our Diné way, in our teachings, there's no one sex above the other. Men and women are supposed to work together, and we're supposed to collaborate. It's supposed to be a meeting of the minds, a meeting of our talents, right? So that we can move things forward and be productive. But that's the teaching. And I don't think it's fair for people to say, like, oh, women are going to be women, men are going to be men. No, like that's really not our way. The true way is that we're supposed to find ways to work together. We're supposed to be respectful of one another, and that's my stance on it right now. So, but I still welcome a debate. Just kidding.
And my talk about Johnny Depp was just a comparison of like a lot of people jumped on the Amber Heard bandwagon
Mm-hmm.
before Johnny Depp was allowed to say his side of the story and provide a different perspective. So that's what I'm saying some people might be just because like he lost a lot of jobs, Johnny Depp and everything, and he
Mm-hmm.
was also a victim. Um, but people rushed to Amber Heard's side to protect her until all the information came out at court, and it
Mm-hmm.
was decided by court that she was the one who lied and made these stories up and was actually the aggressor in the situation. So that's what I'm saying is
That was crazy, huh?
like sometimes it's not black and white and somebody is saying lies. I'm not saying everyone's saying lies. It's just hard nowadays to pick a line, especially for me. I all I know is what's kind of shared on Facebook because I have my own family stuff and my own things in my community that I'm focusing on that I'm hardly even aware of what's going on in Window Rock because until it trickles down and affects my community, I don't pay attention to it, which maybe isn't the right way, but at the moment that's just my scope of view of my close circle at the moment. And I don't work with people in Window Rock with my company or anything, so I have no affiliation or connection to them to be watching the the news at the moment. And that's how I've always been. I don't like watching the news. It just feels like it's always negative and annoying. And for me, like the tea topics here isn't supposed to be like the drama on the reservation. It's supposed to like address a lot of like the systemic hardships of like the red tape that we have to go through just to live as normal citizens that I feel like a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people don't like to talk about, like homicide lease issues or grazing permits, or even the power imbalance with people who have a grazing permit versus people who don't have a grazing permit. There's a lot of people who don't like speaking up about how unfair or unjust that system is. And that's what I like
Mm-hmm.
talking about. Sometimes this drama between like politicians and stuff, it feels like there's laws and people are obviously talking about it because it's on TikTok and it's on the news. I like to talk about
Mm-hmm.
more things that relate to people everyday lives is what I like to talk about for Navajo Tea Time drama. So when we
Yeah, and
get
I
to
think
these
that.
bigger issues, I'm like,
Right.
I don't have opinion on them or the things.
I feel like some of these gender issues, they became more apparent in the past few years, especially because we had more women running for Navajo Nation president than ever before in history. We also had more women who were voted and running for and voted into council for the first time ever, that we haven't had this power imbalance. And it's amazing, right? Like it really is a great accomplishment, because back in the day, Navajo women didn't were pillars of their communities. They really were the foundation of the home, the family. They provided a lot of guidance to their children, their husbands, and that view of gender was very even, as opposed to now. There's these imbalances that exist in society, and as the years go on, it goes up and down. Sometimes men are perceived as above, sometimes women are perceived as above, and sometimes they clash. And we've seen that in the past, right? It's even in our creation story. And what happened during that time? The destruction of the world happened. The destruction of all things happened when women and men, or the female and male, could not work together. And that's what we want to avoid. The only way forward is to be unified, because we're stronger united than we are divided. And I think that I'm really proud of the women who were voted into leadership positions, because I think they bring a different perspective. And I think that with that, though, there are unique challenges that are presented. And I think it's really unfortunate that people are viewing our vice president, the first time a woman's ever been vice president of the Navajo Nation, and these are the headlines that are happening right now. It's so unfortunate that is the case. And what led up to it? I don't think that she would make these accusations out of the blue for any reason, because she does have a reputation, and she is a representative of so many women. Are I'm pretty sure that there are more Navajo women than there are Navajo men. So if you just look at the population, like at the numbers, oftentimes there's more women than men. And so her representation is so great. Why would she? I guess my question is just, why would she compromise that? Why would she bring that to the table? You know what I mean? And especially in a situation that she was brought into, like she didn't seek out this opportunity. It was presented to her. An individual said, "I choose you," and brought them in. You know what I mean? And so she was chosen, and a lot has happened to her over time. Like, as we've been reading about, the trajectory of her personal life has really been up and down. And so there's a lot of sacrifice to be a leader, to be a representative, and people are going to try to go after you, for various reasons, because they might not like you, or they don't like your decisions. But it really is important for us to think deeper about it and not get lost in the weeds for the sake of entertainment, right? That's all I'm saying.
Right. And like, I don't know what's right or wrong in this situation, because like Brady was saying something about, like, not worrying or caring about how the public perceives me. I just don't want to
Hmm.
misspeak because I don't know anything about the situation. So I don't have an opinion that I feel like I should put on the internet for everyone to see forever, you know.
Hmm.
And so
It's like,
I
Kelsey said this,
I am not I'm not an authority on anything
no,
other than
but her
filmmaking.
park.
I just want to park.
I just want a park. I just want a park that my kids can play at. That's it. And that's a tea. Just kidding.
Yeah, and
I know. I just want women to be like respected again. You know what I mean? Like when I am an old lady, older, like when I'm an old lady and I have gray hair and all my kids are grown, like my dream is that I'll be living in a world where I'm not going to be disrespected because of my gender or because of my role as a woman. You know what I mean? I want to be able to go into any space and be able to speak and be heard and not be shut down. Because that's what I fear. I fear that if we don't address these things now, it could go that way where we're going to lose. If you're from a matrilineal society, and the power goes, like the power, the privilege goes through your bloodline. You're the carrier of knowledge and you're the bringer of life. And then for people to just not want to hear you say anything, or not think that you have any wisdom or anything to offer the world or your family or community, that's what I fear. And I don't want to live in a world like that. I really think that we need to have these conversations and really think deeply, and have these conversations with our friends and our families and our kids and talk about these things, because it's really important. It's really important that we talk about like just respect for one another, and we start strategizing ways that we can work together, the way we can collaborate. Think about the big picture, play chess, not checkers, right?
Well, some people just really like checkers.
Mm, yeah,
It's a different strategy.
true.
Like,
Yeah, it's more fun, eh?
no, like when people say play chess, not checkers, I just think like my mom is really good at checkers and my dad was really good
Mhm.
at chess. And my mom always beat my dad at checkers. And my mom never